That was the foundation in the historic Christian tradition that brought so much goodness to the world. Face it, it did.
Right.
And what I was saying is it's not the king that is the law. He's not a law unto himself. He doesn't just get to play God. He is not deity. It's not whatever the king wants or the ultimate of the government. That's not it. Lex Rex is the law as king. Transcendent, divine law is the thing that matters most. It's the law as king, not the king is law. The law is king. And so get that. That's what we're moving away from today, because we live in a culture and society where people don't believe in the transcendent. They don't believe in an ultimate. They don't believe Jesus is king. And so here you go. And I want to say this because I think it's so important to say, and I hope everyone hears me with humility on this truly. But it's our fault. Okay? Judgment starts at the household of God, right? So it's our fault. We're in a situation today in a nation that had so much rich Christian heritage and inheritance, right? That's what got us all this. It wasn't a utopia. No one's arguing for a utopia, but it was good. It was the Great Commission on its way up, right? I mean, that's how the world goes. It goes like, these fits and starts of like great blessing and light and freedom and liberty and gospel and salvation, and it's and that's what we have. We came from there, and it's our fault. It's the fault of pastors in the pulpits. It's the fault of cowards in the pulpits. It's the fault of men leading churches who want to live comfortably and they want to live safely. It's people who will not do what, say, the apostles and leaders of the early church did in the book of Acts. And that's become enemy number one, right? And take a beating for Jesus and not be liked by people. We live in this generation of Instagram and TikTok, and it's quick, fast snippets, and do you like me, and am I beautiful, and, are we friends, and, like, I want everyone to just love me and love my message. It's like Jesus says, woe to you when all people speak well of you. Woe to you when all people speak well of you. We've got now behind us a generation of cowardly pastors and Christian leaders, not all of them, not everybody, but cowardly pastors and Christian leaders who didn't do squat. And they separated from the world, and they said, I guess I don't really need to say that Jesus has something to say about public morality. I mean, Jesus doesn't have anything to say about morality, does he? No, not public morality. No, Jesus only has stuff to say to us here in this little huddle in the church, but he could care less about injustice in the world all around the church. Is that really the God of the Bible? I mean, seriously. Do you read the Bible, say, from cover to cover, and see nothing in there about God's concern about justice in the public realm? In the public square? Do you see nothing? Or do you see actually it's weighted to a direction of, some might say, that's obscene. God seems completely concerned, always concerned about justice and righteousness, which is, by the way, also why Jesus died publicly on a tree as a criminal, because of all of our sin and injustice and unrighteousness. God is supremely concerned with justice and righteousness, so much so that God, in the person of Christ, had to come and die for the sins of his people because we are so unrighteous and unjust. And we live in a day now where the generation of believers before us, I love you and Jesus loves you, but you handed us this. You did this. Of course, people are responsible for their own sin, and they're going to be judged for it. But the Christian church was called by Jesus to be light and salt to the world. So what happened? Because you say, well, in some countries you walk into a place where it's just a bunch of tribes never heard of Jesus before. Is that really the Christians' fault that they're so pagan? Well, no, that's not what we're talking about here, is it? We're talking about a nation that was grounded in Christian truth and the gospel and the biblical worldview. We had those blessings in that inheritance. And guess what? We PP'd it all away. There's the sanitized minister version of that. We did. I mean, this last generation, we've just said, no, Jesus isn't concerned with any of that stuff, and so we'll just sit here in our holy huddles and just wait for the rapture. And guess what? Now your kids are paying for it. Your grandkids are paying for it. You're paying for it. Your friends who own private businesses, they're paying for it. They're losing. They're being stolen from. Do you think Jesus cares if people are stolen from? Something to think about. Do you think Jesus cares if people are stolen from? I say he does, which is why the Christian church has something to say to the federal government when it goes off into complete covetousness and theft, because Jesus cares about that kind of sin. And since he's the ruler of the kings of the earth, book of Revelation, and since he's the King of Kings today and Lord of Lords today, he has something to say about it, and he uses his people to speak against it. And you didn't. when I say you, I'm saying collectively, generally, the last generation or two of evangelicals just sort of stepped away from the public life and didn't speak into this stuff, didn't speak in the area of media, didn't speak in the area of legislation. We just stepped away from it. And guess what? Now you've got Biden and Pelosi and these demons who are just now trying to get their ultimate wish list.